There is an excuse that was used that justifies the move from east to west and everything that has happened along the way. This excuse is called manifest destiny. These land-seeking families believed that it was their God-given right to take the land they wanted. This could also be considered America's form of early imperialism. Manifest destiny was the idea that swept across the nation's mind. They thought about it at the perfect time because the country was recovering from a recession. Everyone was looking for a better life. People moving west believed that the U.S. needed to claim a lot of Mexico's northern land. So the war between the U.S. and Mexico started. The U.S. won. All of the land they won makes up Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, and Nevada. The timing of manifest destiny was fortunate because instead of people leaving the life they had always known to go settle the wilderness, the gold rush provided another catalyst besides just land. Now the dream of having a better life was on everyone's mind. Everyone wanted to strike it rich. The settlers heard about the gold rush because of a man by the name of James Marshall. Shortly after Marshall's discovery, General John Bidwell discovered gold in the Feather River, and Major Persons B. Reading found gold in the Trinity River. When people would search for gold, they would build small towns and buildings in which to live. After all the gold was gone, everyone would leave their makeshift town and search for the next hot spot full of gold. This caused ghost towns to spring up everywhere. The Oregon Trail was forged and became a popular route. Life on the trail was hard though. The mode of transportation was not very comfortable. All they had was a covered wagon and horses. The roads weren't paved, so the travel in the wagons was not pleasurable. So everyone preferred walking. The pace of the oxen pulling the wagon was very slow. They traveled only 2 miles an hour. About 15 miles was the average distance traveled a day. Travel went through many parts of the country, but dry plains and dusty deserts was the most common sight. The wagon on the end, however, was not the favorite spot. The people in the wagon were eating the dust from the 50 wagons in front of it. The wagon train came up with a solution. Everyone would spread out wide so the dust wasn't as bad. The days were long and the nights were short. The men would wake up at 4 a.m. to pack up camp, and by 7, everyone was up again and on the trail. The people leading the wagon party would give a signal for lunch. This break gave everyone a chance to rest, including the animals. The day would end at 5 p.m., but the duties of the men were far from over. Men had to feed the animals and fix the wagons. The men would also have to go hunt for food. They liked buffalo because it was a big animal and a good source of food. After hunting and eating, it was time to sleep. The men would go on shifts as night guards so their belongings wouldn't get stolen and to guard everyone from Indians and robbers. Moving west did not make the Indians very happy. The land they lived on was getting taken right from under them. The land was their home and their main source of food. The Great Plains was where they hunted and lived. The buffalo provided many things for the Indians, and food being one of them. The Indians moved where the buffalo moved. Teepees were set up where the buffalo were grazing. They also relied on the land to give them the other necessities it takes to live. So the people moving west would kill the buffalo, take what they needed, and leave the rest to waste. This made the Indians very unhappy. They used every part of the buffalo and saw it as very wasteful. Since the Indians were now involuntarily sharing their main source of food, a shortage arose. In the end, the Indians were the ones who suffered. There were so many people moving west and wanting more land, the government made treaties with the Indians. This policy restricted Indians from coming into contact with the settlers to reduce conflict. They were put into large reservations, and was very small compared to everything they had ever known. The whites tried to modernize the Indians by teaching them new skills. These skills were thought to be a necessity to live a civil life. Treaties had many problems. Many times They did not think of the cultural practices of the Indians, and often Native Americans did not fully understand what they were signing. Because of this problem, many of the treaties and policies were never set into effect. This led to confusion, and many times it left the status of certain Indian lands uncertain. The Indians were very angry at the settlers, always wanting more land. The natives wanted to protect their land, so they were willing to fight to protect what small piece of land they had. They had more than 1,000 run-ins and battles within the span of 30 years. The government had to spend a lot of money on military programs to help prevent conflicts. As a part of this effort, the government got Christian missionaries to supervise the reservations. The government also appointed some officials to supervise everything else. Very often, the agents would use their position to make themselves rich. They bargained for government contracts to purchase goods or foods promised to the tribes in their treaties. Then they would sell the supplies to outsiders and keep the profits. The missionaries carried out the government policies, but they also tried to influence native peoples towards Christianity and encouraged them to give up many of their own cultural practices. One of these practices was ancestral worship. The excuse used to justify manifest destiny was in the end what made our country what it is today. Because of everyone leaving their known life and moving into the unknown, we have lots of events that have occurred. The California gold rush was one of the biggest catalysts. This caused everyone to have hope of striking it rich and start living a different lifestyle. The long open trail was endured by many to find a new life they had hoped for.